Do you want to drive it?
Hello?
Sure we do.
That was badly timed. When you belt it out of a corner, it goes.
Take that, BMW.
Sorry, buggies. Me likey. Me likey a lot.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this POV review by AUTOBAHN NL. My name is Max, and today we've got a first on AUTOBAHN NL. We've got a BMW ALPINA. We've never driven an ALPINA before, so we were super excited when Bergwerf BMW in the Netherlands contacted us and said, we've got an ALPINA B5 bi-turbo. Do you want to drive it? Sure we do. So it is freaking awesome. I will tell you that up front. I am a little bit in love with this car. I think it is such a cool car for a couple of reasons, which I will tell you all in this review. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to receive updates when we upload a new video, and follow us on Instagram for some behind the scenes stuff. Alright, so I'm going to do a walk around, show you all the cool stuff on this ALPINA. Then we're going to drive it on this beautiful road on this beautiful day, and then we'll take it to the Autobahn for an Autobahn blast, which is pretty much what this car is made for. Alright, so we've got a grey one, a dark grey one. Sophisto Grau is the color. It is a very nice color. We've got a couple of special ALPINA things on this car. Let's begin with the most obvious one, the wheels. Everyone recognizes these wheels, and it's super cool that, you know, after, I don't know, 30-40 years, they are still basically the same wheels. They are now forged, so they are lightweight, but they are still pretty much the same design as they have always been. So it's a very recognizable wheel. I think every petrol head, at least in Europe, knows these wheels. Behind that, we've got ALPINA brake calipers. These are actually the brakes from a BMW M760 Li. So they are quite nice. They have a very soft pedal, but they do stop the car. At the front, we've got a completely new ALPINA front bumper with a little pinstripe along the side here, a little splitter, I would call that, and an ALPINA logo in the bumper as well. I think this makes the front of the 5 Series look really good. It's sort of sporty, but classy as well. I really love the look of this. We've got the black and performance grille as well. And when we move to the side, it's just such a good looking car, I think, the G31 5 Series. Really like it. We've got shadow line as well, so you can see that because we have these black window sills and roof rails. And at the rear, we've got an ALPINA rear bumper with an exhaust with 4 tips that comes through the rear apron. So it sort of sticks through the bumper instead of being underneath it, as you can see. So it's a completely new system by ALPINA, lightweight, and it is apparently developed together with a Krapovic to give it some extra sound. But as you will hear in a minute, it's nothing crazy. It's sort of very distinguished. It does sound like a V8, and it does produce a very nice sound, but it's not louder, for example, than a BMW M550i, which has the same engine as this. So while we're at it, let's take a look at the engine. So in here, we've got the N63 TU2 engine, which is the engine from the M550i. And in the M550i, it has 462 horsepower, but in this ALPINA B5 bi-turbo, it has 608 horsepower and 800 newton meters, which is a lot. So what have they done? Well, to begin, it has 2 new twin-scroll turbos. It has new intercoolers, it has more radiators, it has different pistons, it has different spark plugs, it has an extra oil cooler. So a lot of work has gone into this engine to make it produce 608 horsepower and 800 newton meters, which, by the way, is 50 newton meters more than an M5 produces. So take that, BMW. We've got an ALPINA cover as well with a V8 badge, ALPINA logo, some ALPINA stickers, and a common mistake is that Alpina is a tuner, but they are not. They are actually a car manufacturer. So you can see, I'll show you guys, in here there's actually a plaque that says Alpina, BMW Alpina, sure, but it doesn't say BMW. There again, Alpina. Everywhere it says Alpina. So it's a BMW Alpina, but they actually are a car manufacturer. It's not like they take a BMW and it's still a BMW. They really make it their own. And they certainly make it their own if you look at the character of the car, because what they essentially try to build here is an alternative to a BMW M5. So a car that is still super fast, really luxurious, relatively sporty, but is daily drivable, is very comfortable, will seat 5 people, will have a big boot, because we have got the touring version, which you can't get with an M5. So they sort of try to offer an alternative to sort of better suit the needs of people in the real world. I mean, a BMW M5 is super cool, but it is very hard compared to this. This is super soft and comfortable. So we've got another plaque right here, which says BMW ALPINA B5 Biturbo Allrad, which means all-wheel drive. This is actually the first Alpina B5 with all-wheel drive. So it just has BMW X-Drive. It's a touring and it's number 007. How cool is that? With a little Alpina logo, and this says Hersteller Exclusive Automobielen. That means manufacturer of exclusive automobiles. So in here we've got a Mocha interior with a lot of BMW individual stuff. So this is all in leather as well. We've got a wood inlay, which I love, especially combined with this Mocha leather with sort of a beige piping, some nice stitching. These are the comfort seats, which you get as standard on an Alpina B5 Biturbo. We've got a BMW individual steering wheel as well, which I like a lot more than the one we recently had in the 8 Series and the X5. I think this is much more beautiful. I think it's individual. It might be a 7 Series steering wheel, I don't know. With a heated steering wheel as well and some green stitching. We've also got these special, I think I have to get out to show you guys this. Ooh. It doesn't have pedal shifters, so we've got this little extra thing with a minus, and the other side says plus, and there are little buttons. This is standard in this car, but you also can get pedal shifters, but I think that they feel like this suits this car better. We've also got an Alpina badge over here, and we've got different dials as well, so they have their own special sort of skin. Start it up so you guys can see it a little bit better. They have their own skin with that blue dial, which is super recognizable, and if you go for sport mode they change. But I don't really like this one. I think this one is beautiful. I think this one is really cool, and it really gives it a very special look. So this car also has air suspension at the rear as standard. Alpina also changes the characteristics of the suspension and of the chassis. So they also mount shorter, stiffer springs and dampers at the front. So it does mean that the car as a whole is a lot stiffer than a standard 5 Series. But they also add a Comfort Plus setting, which is normally reserved for the 6 GT and the 7 Series. So at the same time, they sort of do make it more comfortable, but they also do make it handle better. It also has a completely new wishbone setup at the rear, which is made by Alpina. So this really is a dedicated way of changing the car. I mean, that's why they're not tuners, they're a manufacturer. They really change essential parts of the car, and by doing that they also change the way the car feels. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, that how much these guys do to make this car feel this way and drive this way. This is also the first time that you can get an Alpina with 4-wheel steering, active steering, something like that. And I forgot to show you guys this. This car actually has Pirelli P0 tires, but they are developed together with Alpina. So this is a special Alpina tire, which you can see there. It says ALPINA. So they developed this tire to be, you know, dynamically satisfying as well as comfortable. That's why they developed their own tire with Pirelli, and that's the first time since 1985 actually. That's the last time when they worked with Pirelli, but apparently Pirelli convinced them to continue working together and developing this new tire, which is pretty cool that you get your own tire on an Alpina. All right, that's enough with all this explaining all these details. Let's drive it, because it's really nice to drive as well. As I said, it's more focused on comfort than on dynamic driving. So we are in Comfort Plus right now. That means that it is super bouncy. So we are going to go for Sport Plus, Sport for the gearbox, and immediately you feel the car changing. The adaptive dampers stiffen up, the air suspension lowers, and the gearbox tightens up as well. Because this ZF 8-speed, we know it, we love it, we've driven it 100 times, but it does feel very different in this Alpina. Because watch this, when I shift with these little weird buttons, you actually get a big kick in your back when it shifts. It's very aggressive. While if you keep it in comfort, in drive, I mean. So we'll go to comfort and the gearbox in drive. It's silky smooth. It's really good. It's like the best of both worlds if you combine them. And it's actually it rolls a lot in Comfort Plus. But this is sort of what this car is made for. I mean, this sport mode, it's good, it's fun. It also opens the valves in that lightweight exhaust system, so you get a little bit more sound. And remember, this car has 608 horsepower, so when you belt it out of a corner, it goes. It is ridiculously fast, but it's not really meant for roads like this. It's meant for cruising, for doing everything at high speed, but still doing it in a very relaxed fashion. You can also get an upgraded brake package, which gives you a lot bigger discs, and they are made by Brembo. And you can also get a limited slip differential made by Drexler for the rear differential. So those are two of the options that are more about performance driving. So if you want your Alpina to be more about that, you can go for those two upgrades. So with that 608 horsepower and 800 Newton meters, this car does 3.7 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, which is ridiculously fast for a 2.1 ton estate car, station wagon. If you go for the saloon, it does 3.5 seconds to 100. It's sort of meant to be a long distance, high speed cruiser. That's sort of what these Alpinas are made for. So here we are, guys, at the unrestricted Autobahn to test out what this car feels like, what it will do if we get a little space. Of course, as I said, this car has no limiter. So for the touring, the top speed is 322 kilometers an hour. If you go for the regular limousine, it's 330 kilometers an hour, which is pretty crazy. As I said, the characteristics of this car are totally different. It's sort of a gentleman's BMW M5, and that means that it's a lot more comfortable than an M5, and that also should mean that it's a lot nicer to drive on an Autobahn at high speeds. All right, here we go, full throttle. Off. That was badly timed. But you could already hear this V8 sound, this 4.4 liter V8 bi-turbo. It sounds so much better than the engine in the M5, if you ask me. There's no fake sound, or at least no UFO taking off sound. It's just V8. And it suits this car so much better. And I just prefer this sound to the sound of the M5 anyway.
So here we have it. This is around the top speed of a BMW M5 F90. No problem for the Alpina. 313, 14, 15. Man, this car is quick. Holy moly. Oh, and it's so easy. It just keeps going when you hit 300. Ridiculous. Oh, we've got carnage on our windshield. Sorry, buggies. So you could see how simple that was and how comfortable that still was. It's so easy, it's so comfortable, it's so almost civilized, you know. It doesn't make a big deal about it. It's just, it obliges in your need for speed, but it does so in a very civilized manner, which is, it sort of feels like the character of a BMW M760 Li. It's sort of that enormous reserve and that enormous speed without being too shouty, without being too brash and in your face. But me likey a lot. One thing I would like Alpina to do is maybe even go further in their customization and their search for the combination of comfort and speed, is that maybe it would be a good idea if you could spec and configure your stuff more. So I could choose to go for the drivetrain in sport, so the exhaust valves are open and the engine and gearbox are in its most sporty setting, but I could also go for the comfort setting for the suspension. I think that would add even more to the experience. As I said, the gearbox has been worked on too, so the shifts in sport mode are really quite quick and hard, which is really nice because it really changes the sort of the feel of the car. So if we go to comfort mode, we'll go to comfort plus, put the gearbox in drive, and we'll floor it one last time before we get to the border, so you can hear and see the difference, especially those shifts. It's a big difference. So the sound, it's a little bit less loud, and the shift is a lot softer as well, and so is the suspension. Those shorter springs and stiffer dampers, I mean, hello? It does make a difference compared to a regular 5 Series. You do feel that in sport it's actually a little bit harder, but because they added that Comfort Plus setting, which I am in now, you also have almost 7 Series levels of comfort in the chassis when you want it. Like if you have a lot of bumps or you're just cruising along. I have to say that the additions that Alpina does make are very valuable and really do add a lot to the personality of the car. And that's sort of how I want to end it. It's very impressive that by doing all these changes and these tweaks, they sort of create their own personality within BMW. They sort of create a completely separate BMW 5 Series that feels like nothing else. It doesn't feel like any 5 Series. It doesn't feel like an M550i. It doesn't feel like an M5. It feels sort of as a combination between the two, made a little bit more fancy and a little bit more customized. And I think that is a very, very big accomplishment, because it really does feel like you're driving something special if you buy one of these, which I can definitely recommend. And if you do, please go to Bergwerf BMW, who were so kind to lend us this one. Go check them out, the link is in the description. And they really specialize in Alpina cars, so they are the right address to get one of these cars. So thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe by clicking the big button in the middle. You can check out this POV review and check out this playlist of POV reviews. We've made a lot of them, so go check it out, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye guys.